Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Psychedelic Vantage. Today, Adam and I will be discussing some updates to my psychedelic medicine stock portfolio. The last video we recorded about this got a lot of engagement from the community, so we decided that it would be a good idea to make another video speaking about this. Before we start, we would like to make it known that this is not financial advice, and these are all just our opinions. So, with that being said, let's get into it. I actually discussed my recent moves with Adam already. So if you watched the last video, you would know that I went on, I was basically trading these stocks. That was not actually the plan. It started off with a sizable position in Mindset Pharma near the all-time low range. They got bought out by Otsuka. I sold right after that, and I was lucky. Cybin was trading near 30 cents, like I believe 2 days after the acquisition of Small Pharma was announced. I thought they were extremely undervalued. I was very excited about the synergies between the two firms. And so, I said, okay, I'm going to make use of this money and go into Cybin. I've always liked them anyway, always liked them. I just like to make very selective bets in the space. That's just how I like to go about things. Some people like to be more conservative, more diversified. With that being said, I ended up selling Cybin at 48 cents. And it really was mostly due to how cheap Compass Pathways was in the 613 range. It didn't have to do with me not liking Cybin at all. As I stated in that video, probably my favorite pipeline in the space, probably tied with Beckley Biotech at this point. And so got into Compass at 613, sold at 1060, got back into Cybin with double the position size at that I previously had in the 45-cent range. And that's where I'm at today.
All right, Jake. So my first question is, so what was the perspective in regards to jumping out of Compass and jumping into Cybin now?
So, similarly to the last time when I sold Cybin, got into Compass, it had nothing to do with me not liking Cybin that time. And this time it also had nothing to do with me not liking Compass. I just think Cybin, after, breakthrough therapy designation, $150 million raised. They have a phase 3 and a phase 2 ready asset already. Um, in terms of trial execution, I don't know many companies that can match what Cybin has done. Also, quite frankly, the durability data seen with CYB3, I understand it was a small trial, but I was not expecting the durability to be that good. And in a larger trial, if we get remission rates and response rates maybe half as good, it could be like the best treatment option as an adjunct treatment in major depressive disorder. It could be, in my opinion, the Abilify of the psychedelic medicine sector. Abilify is a drug that's also approved as second-line treatment MDD when someone's antidepressant is not working. When that drug was on patent, it reached peak sales of $7 billion.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't know if CYB3 can do that, but it doesn't take a statistician or a financial expert, in my opinion, to know that where I got in at a $330 million market cap around, that, it doesn't take a genius to know that that's undervalued. And Adam, we always talk about this. We laugh about it. Like, the cheap can always get cheaper. We've seen this for years in this space, that the cheap can always get cheaper. So, I'm happy where I got in. I have a very sizable position right now. It's just, and I do have exposure through with Compass through a tie. I understand a tie probably at this point, maybe I would guess 13% ownership, but a tie is so undervalued to the point where if, Compass's stock price doubled, it would, I think, have a very big effect with the tie. And I'm just I'm very happy with this portfolio. And I people they tell me like, oh, you're really just a stock trader. That's what it is. And the way I'd like to answer that is not necessarily. I go in with a long-term mindset, but when valuations change, when new data comes out, I have to rethink things. Things change very quickly in this space. And also, at the end of the day, if I had all the money in the world, I would probably would like to be holding a tie, Compass, Cybin, and GH Research personally. That's personally me.
I hear that. I think so for me and my perspective around Cybin is I think the writing on the wall right now is it's likely because the outstanding shares right now of their
Yeah.
float is kind of crazy. The share structure, whatever, it's just getting out
Yes,
of hand a little bit.
it
So
is.
for like I definitely love Cybin in terms of the work that they're doing, breakthrough designation, CYB3 and CYB4. I think
Yes.
at this point you can't deny that they've kind of delivered every step of the way, and like they're definitely one of the top two psychedelic companies, easily maybe even number one in terms of just pipeline and how far they are along in the trials and the data backing everything. Now with that said, we understand just kind of the markets and how things work. I am
Yeah.
apprehensive about doing anything around Cybin because it's likely that I see a reverse split on the horizon. I don't know
Hmm.
if that's going to be coupled with an uplisting to
Yep.
a bigger exchange or something like that. But for me, in a way to hedge my risk, it would just make more sense for to get that out of the way first
Mm.
before and see where the price discovery kind of lands, and then I would kind of look at starting a position there. So it's like I'm sure you've taken this into account. So like where do
Yes.
you land in regards to this, and why did you kind of decide to pull the trigger now?
Yeah, so I agree. I think there's a very high likelihood that, if they want to get institutional investors more interested, they already are, but more interested in the future, I think they will need to, at least what I'm thinking is they will need to reverse split. And hopefully, like you said, that comes with an uplisting. They're currently trading on the New York Stock Exchange American. So that is a tier below, I guess, normal New York Stock Exchange. So perhaps a reverse split with an uplist, the news wouldn't be perceived as negatively, but I'm not sure. I have no idea. All I know is I made the investment decision based on their valuation right now. And another thing, Adam, I need NNDMT in my portfolio. I need it. I think it's you and I talk about this all the time. I'm the most excited about 5-MeO, but NNDMT might be tied now. I think you have always been most excited about DMT. A tie does have VLS-01. I do think that they will figure out the formulation, but it's not a guarantee. I've spoken with some people who, I guess, have worked with formulation technology, and they say that, taste masking is not a guarantee. Um, and there's some other things that a tie will have to work out. But again, I think it'll be successful. But in terms of NNDMT, Cybin is leading the way. You check out Psychedelic Alpha's recent bullseye chart, tracking all the companies where they are in the development process. And Cybin's ahead of everyone with NNDMT, and they have an intramuscular injection, CYB4. I like how they're looking at it as an, again, adjunctive treatment with generalized anxiety disorder. And they will also be letting in trial participants who have comorbid depression. And a lot of people with anxiety have depression. Um, I, you know, I think Cybin is the number one DMT player right now. And I will be keeping a close eye on VLS-01 and also Gilgamesh's next gen program, which is IV administered. Um, Adam, we've spoken about it. Just the execution by Cybin is super impressive. They were able to do this, this small phase 2A trial, get it right into a phase 3. I think it's because of the multiple doses they looked at. They got enough safety data to bring it into phase 3. And, maybe they do the same thing for CYB4. Now, with all of this being said and all the great news, and I am extremely bullish on this space and especially a Thai Cybin and also Compass, even though I don't hold them anymore. Um, you know, Cybin will have to raise again. People need to realize this. 150 million is a lot of money, and it was a huge, huge step forward. But phase 3 trials are very expensive. Now, my thinking is maybe the next raise, Cybin is worth $1 billion. So the dilution won't be as bad as it was this time. I can't lie. It was a 50% haircut, I think, this time around. But they had to do what they had to do. I don't think they had much control over this. I think they handled it as best as they could. Um, and yeah, CYB4 is I'm excited about CYB3, but CYB4 is what gets me most excited. Probably a top three favorite program for me in this entire space.
I definitely agree with you. I've been outspoken about DMT, and
Yeah.
Cybin is definitely the furthest along. I really do hope that Atai and with VLS they can figure that out, because that would be a really, really interesting kind of way to administer DMT. But it's just a very big question mark for most people. No one's really like, I've never tried one of these strips. We know that they're out there and they're available for regular drugs, but in regards to psychedelics, there's just not a lot of info out there. So
Yes.
if we do see some decent data coming out, that could be very exciting. Now, with that said, we'll shift focus back to Cybin. Cybin does have the leading DMT program in the sector.
I would say so. Yeah.
So I definitely understand your perspective, and I do respect it. Though, so like a part of my there's a like trepidation is that like the markets in general have been so irrational in terms of how they react to any
Yeah.
of these data readouts,
That's right.
or like any of the news coming out of the psychedelic sector, and also just biotech generally.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me with confidence to predict anything. So I've taken the perspective of just planning for the worst, because it's just been that's how things have been playing out.
Yeah.
So far I've been relatively accurate in terms of just waiting and sitting on my hands. So we'll see how things go. I really do hope to be wrong at some point, because I want to see this sector fly, and I want to see like if we had gotten this Cybin data readout in a bull market, I cannot like
Yes.
the SP
Yes.
should have been rising, in my opinion. I don't know how significantly, but we should see it hovering above 40, 45, 50 cents. That's for sure. At least that's my perspective. That's my own personal
Yeah.
opinion. Like it just doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. That's kind of the game that we're playing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, actually, so I would have said that with every great trial readout, every single one, every single one, there's been a sell-off, maybe not the day of, but in the coming days, except for MindMed right now. MindMed's been, they look healthy. That stock looks healthy. I was surprised. This was, I think, the first time I recall that we didn't see a sharp sell-off. Now, Adam, maybe the shares outstanding is a concern for Cybin. That's why people aren't jumping in. I have no idea. I really don't know. I just know that I can forgive myself if I got in a little too early, because I think the market cap I got in was extremely undervalued, and I can forgive myself if I watch this thing go down to 30 cents again. I just, I had to jump in, and you're right. I mean, in terms of the macro environment, so no, it's very hard to predict. And my thinking is hopefully that good phase 3 data from Compass gets the sector going again. I mean, if MDMA therapy gets approval this year, I imagine that would be ginormous. But that's not a guarantee. None of those two things I mentioned is a guarantee. And everyone should, although these drugs are very de-risked, that doesn't mean that there's no risk. There is risk, and everyone should be aware of that.
Amen, Jake. Think that was all very well said. And I guess like my like last thoughts here are I think prior to any of this stuff with Cybin, everyone was saying, oh, but they have no cash, they need to dilute, they need to raise. I
Yeah.
think at some point we can always look for things to kind of as a knock against the company, but I think your perspective actually is very lucid. It's the market cap. It's like, does this make sense? And that's where we're at. So like I definitely hear what you're saying, and maybe rethinking kind of my perspective moving forward. But with that said, I think thank you so much for sharing your perspective.